Shalom, shalom, testing, testing. All right. Shema, Yasha Allah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Ahud. Deuteronomy 6 and 4, Bahala Shawan Kodash. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and are worthy of their double honors. Peace and blessing to you, Akim, pushing out this truth across the four corners during these last sects of time. Kwam Yasha, Mighty Shalom. This is going to be a quick hit entitled, For by grace are ye saved through faith. Ahmawan, which is the Hebrew word for faith. Lord willing, this message is edifying. This is coming from the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and verse 5. It says, I'll start at 4. It says, But God our power, who is rich in mercy, and might I add that mercy is synonymous with grace. Grace and mercy go hand in hand. It says, But God our power, who is rich in mercy, for his great love, wherewith he loved us. And the scriptures say, if ye love me, keep my commandments. But it says, even when we were dead in sins. Sin is the transgression of the law. Yahushua said, think not that I come to destroy the law, but to fulfill. It says, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Hamashiach. By grace ye are saved. That's right. And it's written in a place also where it says the Son of Man quicken whom he will. When you go into quicken, it goes into invigorate. All right. Give that spiritual life, breathe that breath back on into us. And that was done ultimately through whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose true Hebrew name is Yahushua. But it says, Ephesians 2 and 6, and hath raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Yahushua Mashiach. That's right, man. And that's what this truth, that's what this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding does. It makes us to sit in heavenly places, even though we're in these quote unquote corruptible bodies. All right. That's what this word does. It invigorates us. Matter of fact, I'll get that word invigorate. I'll just get the precept that it's coming from. This is John chapter 5, verse 21. It says, For as the Father raised up the dead and quickened them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. And the Lord has quickened us through his Son, Yahweh Shai, man. Through this word. Can these bones live? How was that breath of life blown back into us? Through this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It says the breath of life was given unto Adam, and he became a living soul. This is 2 Ezra 3 and 5. And gavest a body unto Adam without soul, which was the workmanship of thine hands. It tells you in 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, that the first Adam was earthly. The second Adam is a quickening spirit, which is Yahweh Shai. It says, which was the workmanship of thine hands, and did breathe into him the breath of life, and he was made living before thee. So back in that John 5, it says, John 5 and 21, for as the Father raised up the dead and quickened them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. And I'll just quickly get that word quicken in John 5. And I'll read it in the NLT first, John 5 and 21. For just as the Father gives life to those he raises from the dead, and how did the Lord raise us from the dead? Out of this corruptible world, all right, that's going to ultimately pass. Okay, scriptures say the fashion of this world passeth away. Out of that mindset of being a two-third, thinking that we were all these other names and proverbs and bywords under the sun. The Lord corrected us and brought us back to our heritage. The heritage is synonymous with the law. When you look up heritage and law in the scriptures, it brings it up that the Lord gave us the law for life and a heritage. Okay, so scriptures say also, neglect not the gift that is in thee, that was laid on by the hands of the presbytery, that gift of prophecy. And that gift of prophecy is bestowed onto us, but it's through faith. It's through believing without actually seeing these things coming to pass, but ultimately knowing that they will come to pass. So let's get that word quicken. I ain't mean to be long-winded. It's that word quicken from John 5 and 21. Strong's G 2227. Zoapoeo. Zoapoeo. Zoapoeo, it says, quicken it, to produce alive, to beget or bear living young, to cause to live, to make alive, give life. And here's the point. It says, by spiritual power, to arouse and invigorate. And it says to restore to life, because we once had that life into us, but ultimately in this captivity, America, Jake just pretty much just threw his nationality, threw the Lord out the window, man. But we return unto it. All right. If you return onto something you were once there, if a father says, "Hey, son, come back, return unto me," that means you were once there. So that's what the Lord ultimately did with the hopeful elect. Going on, it says to give increase of life, thus a physical life of the spirit, quickening as respects the spirit, endued with new and greater powers of life. New goes into being refreshed. Scripture saying Corinthians, if any man be in Yahweh Shai, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away, all things become new. So we're refreshed in this thing, all right, through faith, through this wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and we have access in this grace period, but grace goes into mercy, all right. But just like you have a grace period, does that mean that you ultimately are going to take advantage of that grace period? No, the scriptures say we don't have a license to sin. So we're making the most out of this grace period and returning unto the Lord. So it says, metaphor of seeds quickening into life, germinating, springing up, growing. Strong's definition, make alive, give life, quicken. All right. And I'll just go back to Ephesians 2 and 6 again. And hath raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Yahweh Shai Mashiach, that in the ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his grace and his kindness towards us through Yahweh Shai Mashiach. And in the ages to come, we're in that time right now where the Lord is going to show that exceedingly grace, all right? Exceeding riches, Salakia, of his grace and his kindness towards us. How is he going to do that? He's going to deliver the hopeful elect from the hands of our enemies, all right, and put our enemies in a captivity, man, and restore us as a nation once and for all. We're all waiting on that. So it says, verse 8, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, our power. That's right, man. And I'll just get a quick definition of faith. Hebrews 11 and 1. And it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for. The Hebrew word for faith is Ahmawan. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. And when you go into Timothy, it says, neglect not the gift that is in thee that was laid on by the hands of the presbytery. That's going into the elders. So faith is a gift, prophecy is a gift. But ultimately, it says in James that faith without works is dead. So that faith, that believing without actually seeing these things coming to pass, believing in the word, prophets of old, the signs that are in the earth, those names, all right, without us actually receiving that deliverance yet, that's going to take us there. That's going to promote us to work. All right, that's going to promote us to go out and make our calling and election sure. All right, so Lord willing, this message was edifying. Let me give infinite honors and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harachakwadash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings until next time. Kwam Yashala, Mighty Shalom.